Stephanie is a popular YouTuber and is making a video on her channel. The content of this video is about a special food recipe that her subscribers ask for it. But Stephanie starts the video while telling them the story of her best friend Emily because she has been missing for 5 days, and no one knows where she is. Then, Stephanie says that she will help the police find Emily, but she is touched when starts telling Emily's story to the viewers. Stephanie says that one day, she was in the nursery with her son Miles, and he meets a new friend called Nikki. Meanwhile, Nikki asks her mother Emily to go with Miles to play in their house, but Emily refuses. So, Stephanie asks her to accept and they all go to Emily's house. It is a very big and beautiful house. There, Emily and Stephanie get close to each other. Stephanie tells her story that she became a widow after her husband died with her brother in a car accident. Then, she inherited her husband's money and bought this house. After that, Emily tells her about her life. Emily works as a public relations manager for a big brand, and she is married to a man called Sean. He is a professor at the university and a former author. But Emily says that her husband Sean has bad luck with writing, and didn't write anything for 10 years, after his last book, which didn't earn a great revenue at all. Since this moment, Sean became a professor at the university, but his salary isn't enough for them. The next day, they are in the garden with their kids, and Stephanie takes a picture of Miles and Nikki for the school yearbook, but Emily tells her to delete the picture immediately. Stephanie is surprised, but does what Emily wants without asking her about the reason. Then, they all go to Emily's house, and Stephanie gives Emily a bracelet as a gift. Since then, Emily and Stephanie become very close to each other. So, Stephanie tells Emily about her secret that no one knows. This secret is that after the death of her father, Stephanie discovered that she had a brother from another mother. He lived with her for a period of time in the same house, but her husband got annoyed by this. At that time, Stephanie fought with her husband, and told him not to talk about her brother again. Then, her husband felt angry and got out of the house, but her brother went with him to calm him down. After that, Stephanie got the news of their death from the police. Since that day, Stephanie feels guilty, feeling she is the reason for the death of her husband and her brother. But Emily tries to calm Stephanie and tells her that this was their fate. Then, asks her to forget the details of the incident and to care for her son Miles. The next day, Emily calls Stephanie and asks her to take her son Nikki from school because she will be late. Also, her husband Sean traveled to London to check on his mother. Stephanie then agrees and tells her no worries. But after 2 days, Emily doesn't come back to take her son, and Stephanie tries to call Emily to check on her many times, but her phone is out of service. So, Stephanie calls Emily's company, but knows from them that Emily had traveled to Miami for an important job, and no one knows anything about this job except for Emily. Stephanie then calls Sean to tell him what happened. The next day, Sean meets Stephanie, but he isn't surprised that Emily left Nikki with her, and tells her that Emily always leaves Nikki with her friends, because she always disappeared for a few days and then appeared again. But now, 3 days passed and Emily doesn't appear. So, they decide to call the police to report Emily's disappearance. Then, the police officers ask Sean about Emily's family, but Sean tells them that Emily had no family because her parents died when she was a teenager. After that, the police officers say that they will start looking for Emily, and ask Sean not to travel during this period, because they may need more information from him. After 2 days, there is no news about Emily. So, Stephanie is worried about her friend, and decides to travel to New York at Emily's company headquarters. There, Stephanie meets the company's manager, and knows from him that when Emily traveled, she didn't say anything to anyone. This is because Emily is responsible for solving problems with clients, and the manager doesn't care about the dates or places of Emily's travel, but he only cares about solving the problem. And now, Stephanie can't know any information about her friend, but she decides to enter Emily's office without anyone seeing her. Stephanie keeps looking around the office for anything that may lead her to the disappearance of Emily, but while she is searching, she sees a picture of Emily, and it is clear that she was very depressed. So, Stephanie takes the picture and leaves the company. Then, Stephanie gives Emily's picture to people everywhere. and she hopes anyone will know something about her friend. One day, Stephanie is at Emily's house, but a sergeant named Malloy tells Sean that Emily's name wasn't on any flight to Miami, and says that Emily hired a car from the airport on the same day. After that, Stephanie ends her video, and informs the followers of all the details about this car to help her. The next day, Stephanie finds one of her followers sending her a message. She says that she saw Emily while she was driving a car in Michigan. So, Stephanie tells Sean about the message, and asks him if Emily has friends or family there. But he tells her that Emily has no one in Michigan. While they are talking, the police call Sean, and inform him that they found Emily's body drowned in a lake in Michigan. After a few days, Emily's funeral takes place, and Sean doesn't believe that happened. So, Stephanie decides to stay with him in his house to console him, and take care of him and his son Nicky. The next day, Sergeant Malloy comes to Sean's house. Then, Stephanie knows from Malloy that Emily's autopsy showed that Emily was an alcoholic, and she took heroin injections. Here, Stephanie is surprised by Malloy's words, and tells him that she hasn't seen any signs of addiction in Emily. However, Emily was bankrupt due to her husband's failure in his job, and that he can't find another source of income to improve their financial condition. Then, Stephanie knows from Malloy that Sean bought an insurance policy on Emily's life with $4 million. But this happened only a few days before Emily disappeared, and Stephanie knows from Malloy that he is suspicious of Sean. He then asks her to call him if she finds anything. After that, Stephanie goes to the college where Sean works, but she sees him while flirting with one of his students, and Stephanie begins to suspect that Sean is the reason for Emily's death. When he returns to the house, Stephanie asks him about the insurance policy, but he tells her that was Emily's idea in the first place for their son's future, especially after she knows from Stephanie that she was spending from her husband's insurance policy, who died in the accident. Meanwhile, Sean admits to Stephanie that Emily stole his mother's ring while they were visiting her in London, and he was surprised when he saw it with Emily on the plane. Since then, Sean doesn't trust Emily anymore, but he was living with her to be close to his son. After that, Sean tries to convince Stephanie to get married, and to live to raise their children together. This is because he loves her, and wants to live with her forever. And Stephanie agrees because she really loves him. Then, she goes to replace Emily's clothes with her own clothes. But Stephanie is shocked when she sees that Emily's clothes are in the closet again, and thinks that Emily's spirit doesn't agree with what is happening. In the evening, Stephanie sits with Nicky in his bed, and she feels terrified when sees the bracelet that she gave to Emily beside Nicky's bed. The next day, Stephanie comes back from school with the children, but Nicky gives her a letter, and says that his mother gave him this at school to hand over to her. So, Stephanie takes the letter from Nicky, and gets terrified when she finds her picture with her dead husband and brother. Then, she finds her phone ringing. It's Emily, and tells Stephanie that she watches her from heaven, and asks her to thank Sean 4 million times. After that, Stephanie goes to Sean quickly to tell him what happened, but he tells her that all these are just hallucinations, and asks her to take a sedative to calm her nerves. So, Stephanie returns home, and decides to search for Emily's life history. She sees a painting of Emily, with the name of the artist who made it, and starts searching until she reaches her. But Stephanie is surprised, because the artist tells her that the owner of the picture is called Claudia, not Emily, and knows that Emily was a friend of the artist. But Emily ruined her life, because she stole all the artist's money that she was going to pay for her studies at the College of Art. And instead of being a famous painter as she dreamed of, she becomes an obscure tattoo artist. Also, no one knows anything about her. She shows her a t-shirt that Emily gave her as a gift, and it's for a camp in Michigan. Then, Stephanie goes to the camp where Emily was. There, she meets 2 of the employees, and tells them that she is looking for one of her relatives. Stephanie says that her relative was in the camp, but from a long time ago. So, the employees allow her to enter the archive, where the photo albums of all people who were in the camp. And there, Stephanie sees a picture of 2 twin girls who look like Emily. She looks for someone from the 2 girls' families, until she reaches their home address. Stephanie goes to this home, and meets a woman named Margaret. Then knows that Margaret suffers from amnesia. So, she shows Margaret a picture of Emily. But Margaret recognizes her, and tells her that this is her daughter, and that Emily and her sister are twins. But when they were 16 years old, they had fought with their father, and there were always problems between them. Then, they burned the eastern wing of their house while their father was inside. And since that day, Emily and her sister were disappeared. Also, everyone knows nothing about them until now. Stephanie then makes a video on her channel and tells Emily that she knows information about her, so that Emily understands that Stephanie knows that she is still alive. At that moment, Sean is at the restaurant, and Emily comes undercover. He asks her why she faked her death, especially since they didn't agree to make an insurance policy. But she tells him that she did all this to benefit from the money, and had no other choice but to save herself from bankruptcy and provide a good future for her son. Suddenly, Emily takes out her gun and threatens Sean, and tells him that if he talks to Stephanie or calls the police, she will kill him. Then, Sean returns to the house and meets Stephanie with an employee from the insurance company. He finds out that Emily has a twin sister, and she might be the one who died. So, the employee will not pay the insurance policy. After a while, Stephanie shoots a video on her channel about a recipe for her friend Emily's favorite drink. She says that she will drink this at her friend's grave, and Emily receives the message. The next day, Stephanie meets Emily at the grave. She tells Stephanie her story, and says that she and her twin were suffering from their father's cruel, that's why they decided to get rid of him. Then, they ran away from the house, and each of them agreed to live in a state far from the other. Since then, Emily and her sister used to meet every once in a while, in the hut where they used to hide. Emily says that she went there more than once, and she waited for her sister. But her sister disappeared completely, and she never saw her again. After 15 years, Emily's twin sister appeared again, and sent a letter to Emily, asking to meet her at the hut. But Emily was surprised that her sister became addicted, because she had spent all her money on drugs. Her twin sister asked her for $1 million, or she would confess to the police the crime they had committed a long time ago. So, Emily decided to drown her sister in the lake, and to take advantage of her sister's death by taking out an insurance policy on her life. Then she says that Sean knew everything Emily did, and plays a record of his voice, saying he doesn't like Stephanie, but he's deceiving her to take care of his son Nicky. Stephanie tells her that she informed the insurance company of everything she knew, and they asked the police to reinvestigate the case again. So, Emily hurts herself and goes to the police, then tells them that her husband Sean made her fake her death, and the police arrest him, but he can get out on bail. Sean returns home, and Emily waits for him. He fights with her because of what happened, but Emily tells him that she still loves him, and that is why he is still alive. She then tells him that she will forget his marriage with Stephanie, but suddenly, they find Stephanie entering the house with a gun. She starts threatening them because they deceived her, and accuses Sean of treason because he pretended he loved her. Suddenly, Stephanie shoots a fire and hits him, and runs to save him, but Emily tells them that the jig is up, and that because she knows that they put microphones in the house to let her confess that she killed her family, but she took off all the microphones. She then shoots fire at Sean and threatens Stephanie with the gun, but Stephanie tells her that everything currently happening is being live-streamed, and shows her the small camera that she put in her clothes. Emily runs and tries to escape, but a car hits her. Then, the police come and arrest her. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you in the next video.
Big dog status, I'm a big dog vet. I pull up on the block in a big Corvette, yeah.